Hey there everybody and welcome back. In today's video I wanted to walk you through the basics of grabbing your API key from Firebase. I have a couple of other videos and I've had some questions where people are asking how to actually go ahead and get that API key. So in this case I have a project called Test API 2, which is actually from a video I'll post a link in below where I cover how to set up basic API variables in Appgyver, so using that database variable function. Now I'm going to cover how to get your API key in the event that you need to do any additional work. Now before we get started, if you like the content that's being put out, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that bell notification just to let me know that you are supporting the channel. So let's go ahead and jump straight in. So first things first, you obviously need to set up your project in Firebase. When you go to the main page, you can just click Create Project. Now in this case, I have a very simple Firestore database, and for this project, let's just go ahead and enable authentication as well. So we'll click Get Started for authentication, and then we'll just use email, and we will enable this. All right, so if at this point we wanted to manage users, we could here. And then you'll see settings. We have all of these other options here. So really everything's set up as far as the two databases are concerned, or the Firestore database and authentication. So if you want, you can use rules here to update your security. Obviously, you don't want an open database. But what we need to do is we need to go to Project Settings. Now up here, you'll see that we have a Web API key. I'm not scared to share this because I'm going to be deleting this project, but this here is your Web API key. Now, what I would recommend doing is create apps within the project. So, in this case, I would just click iOS. Here you're going to need to fill out this information. Obviously, I don't need this, so I'm just going to put com.company. Let's see. We'll just put testing app. And I'm going to copy this because we may need it for Android as well. And then your nickname, and then your App Store ID, which it shows is optional. So we'll just put in 123. We'll put register app. And then you have your download Google service info. So it'll give you a quick overview of what this looks like. Add Firebase SDK. I usually skip these steps, and the main reason is when you come down here, you'll see a couple of configurations and different things that you can work with, but usually you can just grab the API at the end. So we can click Continue to Console, and you'll see that we have our Web API key here, and when we go down here, we have our iOS app, we have our app ID, encode app ID right here. We have your bundle and all of this information. And then if you need to, you can see SDK instructions, or you can see your info plist. So if we click download here, at any point you want to, you can actually open this. I use, for example, this is Visual Studio Code, but you can typically see a couple of options. So you'll have right here, it says API key, and beneath that is the API key for your Apple application. So typically you can just look up or Control F API for this, but in this particular case, you would have your API key and you have a string shortly after. Now, another thing you can consider when you go back is if we are to go to Project Overview, we can click this and Settings, and it takes us back to this page. So you have your Web API key here, but just to show you what that Google Info plist looks like, you can click that, which will also open in Visual Studio Code. And if I'm not mistaken, these values should be the same. So you'll see that we have API key, and right after is your API key. So that's how you're going to get the Apple API key. Now, if we need to, let's just say we're going to publish the app to Apple, a web app, and as a Google application, you can go to Project Settings, and now we can click Add App, click the little Android icon. I'm putting in the same information, but again, obviously you're filling out whatever is relevant for your application. And then you will just be able to download this JSON cert, and you can click next. And I ignore all of this. Obviously, record what you need to. And then if you ever need to a second time around, you can always download those SDK instructions. But here is your app ID if you need it. And then when you open this in Visual Studio Code, typically you can scroll through. You'll see all of the things that you need here. But 9 times out of 10, you'll need your storage bucket and then some basic additional information. So you'll see where it says API key. There's a value current key, and that is right here. And then we literally repeat the exact same process for the web. So you'll literally name whatever it is. You can click if you want to set up Firebase hosting. Just to speed this up, I'm just going to click next. And you'll see that we have all of the data here, and our API key is right here. So we can just click continue to console. And now anytime you need it, you can click on the web app. Your app ID is right here. And then you have your API key, auth domain, project ID, all of that. So essentially, once you set up each of these, the API key is not here, but you can download these files to get the API key for each specific project. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment box below, and I'll see you all in the next video.